How's everybody doing today?
We're doing great, Chef.
What do you want to learn how to make today?
Risotto.
What a coincidence. It's just what I'm going to do for you. Who can tell me what risotto means?
It's like a rice dish. It's Italian.
Oh, a rice dish? It's Italian. Very close. Its origin is northern Italy, and it's actually a method of cooking, not the name of a dish. So it's called the risotto method, but very close. So we're going to start with about a tablespoon of butter and oil. Why do you suppose I'm using butter and oil?
So you can get their proper consistency.
Okay.
You need a lot of fat.
I do need fat.
Butter burns.
Oh, yes, the smoke point, or the point that your fat will burn, is much higher when you incorporate oil. Butter has a lower smoke point, meaning it's going to burn faster than oil. So I'm going to put this onto a low heat. Why do you suppose I'm looking for a low heat with this dish?
So you don't burn it?
So I don't burn it. And when you cook risotto, it's a slow method. I just added onions, about a half a cup. I want to cook these onions until they're translucent. Who can tell me what translucent means?
You can see through them.
See through them. Excellent. We don't want them to turn to mush. We want them to have a little bit of texture. I'm stirring this with a wooden spoon. Why do you suppose I want to use a wooden spoon opposed to a metal spoon?
So you don't scratch the pan.
Oh, so I don't scratch the pan. Metal can oftentimes give a great color to a dish if you're scraping a pan, or even give the metallic flavor to a dish. So for that reason, I'm going to use wood. In addition, metal may agitate the rice more than wood, causing it to break up. So I've got my onions sweated. What does that mean, sweating onions?
They're lightly cooked, not yet cooked all the way through.
Partially cooked. Excellent. I'm adding 1 cup of arborio rice. Now I'm coating my rice with fat. The French say, fat equals flavor.
Chef,
Yes.
how often should you stir that risotto?
Oh, what a good question. You want to stir frequently, but the more you stir your risotto, you're going to aerate it. And when you aerate it, that's going to keep the starches from forming. So there's a fine line between over-stirring and stirring enough. Good question.
Thank you, Chef.
Arborio rice is a very starchy rice, and starchy rice is what you want to use when you make risotto. Starchy rice creates that creaminess. As the starch releases, combined with the stock, gives you that creaminess you're looking for. So I want to coat my rice with the fat. I don't want to brown my rice, I just want to coat it with fat. That helps release the kernels. It's almost like popcorn. You want to get those kernels ready to open up, pop for you. And then they'll be primed for absorbing the stock that you're going to be putting in. You want to use about 4 cups of hot stock to 1 cup of dry rice. Why hot stock?
It helps cook the rice.
It does. It helps cook the rice consistently. If I had hot rice and I'm adding cold stock, that's going to bring my temperature down. Every time I add cold stock to my rice, the temperature's coming down. And we want to maintain the temperature and keep a consistent cook. So I'm going to add, that's about a cup of stock. I'm using chicken stock. And it has that nice, deep, light brown color because I like to roast my chicken bones before I make my stock. That gives it a deeper, richer color and flavor.
Chef, would it make a difference to use beef stock?
You could. You could use beef stock for this dish. You could use vegetable stock as well. Let's say you're a vegetarian. If you had seafood in the dish, maybe use a shellfish stock. Shrimp shells, after you peel your shrimp, perfect for making a stock. A lot of people throw it away. Don't do that. Collect them, save them, freeze them. When you're ready, make a nice shrimp stock. 30 minutes, done. So, I want to continuously stir my risotto, but I don't want to over stir it.
How often should you stir it?
What a good question. You want to stir it enough to keep it moving because those rice kernels need to rub up against each other to release that rice. So you want those agitating each other. But the more you stir, the more you aerate the dish. And your air is not going to help your risotto get to where it needs to be. Okay? So there's a fine line there. So I think it needs another drink.
Why can't you add all the stock at once?
We're making risotto. We're not making rice. So traditionally, you're going to add all the liquid to the dry rice when you're making rice. And when you're making risotto, it's a gradual step-by-step process. Excellent question. Traditionally, in northern Italy, it is served as a first course by itself, called a prima, maybe a priming you for the meal to come. Okay, I'm going to be adding my seasoning, but I'm not going to add my seasoning until close to the end of the process. Why do you suppose that is?
So it has more of a rich flavor?
Has something to do with flavor. If you add your salt and pepper or other seasonings too soon cooking your dish, those are going to intensify. It's harder to control them. What I am going to add now is some white wine. Most wine added, or any alcohol for that matter, added in the early stages of cooking will be burned off. Never 100%, but majority of the alcohol will be burned off before you serve the dish. So we have a nice heat. Our dish is percolating. It's not a rolling boil. It's kind of simmering. That's where we want to be. So when do we know when the rice has had enough stock?
It stops absorbing.
Excellent. The rice will tell you when it's had enough to drink. It's going to stop absorbing as quickly, and then you need to back off. Because once again, we're making risotto, not making soup, not making rice.
Chef, do you just have to use a saucepan to make risotto, or can you use anything else?
That's a very good question. You want to control the cooking surface. If you have a thin layer, meaning if the rice is spread out, it's harder to get those kernels to agitate and rub against each other. So you want to kind of keep them close. So you want to use a narrow vessel. So I find a saucepan is the perfect vessel for making something like risotto. So how do we know, other than the fact that the rice will stop absorbing the stock as quickly, how else would we know that the rice or risotto is done?
This is tender.
I'm sorry?
Rice is like tender.
Tender. Is there another word we could use?
Al dente.
Al dente. What does that mean?
It has a bite to it.
Has a bite to it. Literally means to the tooth. Excellent. So when you bite into it, there's a little resistance. It's not crunchy, but it's not mush. So al dente is what we're looking for. Al dente is also a term used when you're cooking vegetables, and it's a real shame to see vegetables overcooked because that strips it of all of its value, all of its vitamins and nutrients and its color. So we're getting there.
How do you know when it's done?
Well, once again, we're going to be tasting it shortly, looking for al dente, to the tooth, and also a good indicator is it's not absorbing as much stock anymore. So the rice is telling you, okay, I've had enough to drink. We're going to be adding Parmesan cheese. We're looking for a creamy and rich consistency. But I'm going to step it up a little bit and add a poached egg, and that'll really heighten the creaminess and richness. So I've got my poaching liquid. I'm adding a little bit of white vinegar to my poaching liquid. Why would I do something like that?
Give me some flavor.
Does add a little bit of flavor, but the main reason is when you add white vinegar, it creates the ability for this egg to maintain its shape. It's like science. It'll keep that white portion of the egg tight. In addition, I'm going to show you a little trick. It's creating a vortex in your poaching liquid that will also help your egg stay centrally located, which will also keep it compact and give it a nice shape. So, how's this looking?
Pretty good.
Looks good.
I'm going to give it a taste. Soon, you will give it a taste. Almost there. I think we're done adding stock. Who's hungry for some risotto?
Me?
Hey, chef.
Excellent. Personally, I'm a lover of seafood, and living in New England, I'm in the perfect location. So, if I were making risotto for myself, I'd be using shrimp, asparagus, a little lemon zest, finished with a little Parmesan. That's how I like it. A little fresh herb, maybe some cilantro. Give it a little freshness. All right. I think we're close. We are al dente. At this point, I'm going to stop the heat because when I add my finishing butter and my cheese, I don't want my risotto or rice to be too hot because the fat will separate and I'll have greasy risotto. So we're going to let that sit for just a moment. We'll start our egg in the meantime. So that vortex that I talked about is created by whisking in one direction. Get that egg going. At this point, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of raw unsalted butter to my rice.
Why is that, chef?
This is going to give it that nice creamy sheen and richness that you're looking for. When you see in a recipe an ingredient that's divided, that means you're going to be adding it in 2 or more stages. So this butter that we're using was divided. I initially started coating the dry rice, and now I'm finishing with butter. There's a French term called Montebeurre. Does anybody know what Montebeurre means? To mount with butter, or otherwise finish with butter. So that's what we're doing here, a little Montebeurre. Now, I have my grated Parmesan cheese. That egg's looking good. You see that creaminess that we're getting? I'm going to add just a touch more butter and a touch more cheese. At this point, I'm also going to add some salt, a pinch, and pepper, white pepper. Why do you suppose I'm using white pepper?
To help the appearance?
Excellent. If I use black pepper, what would that do?
It'll just look like specks in the meal.
Specks. I'm having a fuel issue. Solved. No longer need heat here, no longer need heat there. We're good. So I think we're looking like we're almost ready to serve this up. I'm gonna finish with some green onion or scallion, give it some color. So what's the consistency we're looking for with our risotto dish? Anyone?
Slightly liquidy.
Slightly liquidy. Interesting.
Creamy.
Creamy. Excellent. You want your risotto to look like lava cascading down the side of a volcano. Has that ooze. Do we have an ooze?
I believe so.
If you can mold your risotto, it is the improper consistency. If when you plate it, it releases, you've hit your mark. So we got quite a number of people out there. I think I'm going to add a little bit extra so everybody gets a taste. A poached egg. Ready to be plated. The presentation side up. Oh. Finishing salt. I always like to give a little pinch of finishing salt. Need a touch of color on the top. Here is your creamy Parmesan risotto finished with poached egg. Thank you and bon appetit.